Hi, everyone. Welcome back. We took a little bit of a break from obo-academy for the month of August, but now we're back and we have a lot of stuff planned for you for the next for the rest of the year and into the next year too. I'm going to drop this link back into the chat for those of you who just showed up. So we've been putting all of our videos onto this obo-academy YouTube channel. So previously they were just put into like a Dropbox or a Google Drive folder, and we were linking the videos from the folder, but then we realized that putting them up on YouTube would be a more stable place for them. So if you want to go straight to this link, you can also find all the videos that we've captured so far, but these are also linked from our webpage with the lessons on here. So you can find the videos from past tutorials on either of these places. So yeah, last time we met at the end of July, we talked about pull requests, and we didn't get through the whole thing. So we're going to just continue. Thank you, Sarah, for adding the link. We're going to just continue talking about pull requests today. And so I'm just going to finish out the material that I kind of quickly glossed over at the end. So we'll just talk about that in more detail. And then we'll have, it may not use a full hour. So we may have some time at the end for other questions, or we can practice working on pull requests together, or whatever we choose to do. Also, just note that here's the current schedule. These are, we always put the most current class on the upcoming class on the top, but then I also created a bit at the bottom here, upcoming courses. So, and with a note, this is a tentative and subject to change, but this is what we have planned for coming up. So in 2 weeks from now, Nico and I are going to present some new content that we wrote on how to be an open scientist. In October, the first week, we'll cancel this meeting because there's the International Society for Biocreation's virtual conference, and we'd encourage you to attend that. There's a registration link here, and then we might mix up some of these upcoming courses, but we did talk about having kind of like a hackathon where we can all just kind of gather together here on Zoom and work on open tickets together, so people can get more experience working on tickets, and then as I kill two birds with one stone kind of thing. We can also work on some tickets and to close some tickets, and we can all make contributions to other ontologies that maybe we don't always work on. So that's something we're planning. We might mix up the schedule though. So and then these are Nico's going to teach a course on fundamentals of matching, and then Sabrina's going to redo the course, do a new version of or same content, but another walkthrough of the contributing to ontologies. We also have other things coming up in the pipeline. So actually, I think the schedule is going to get rearranged, but Lee Carmody is probably going to do a session probably on October 18th, actually, on talking about the MAXO, the medical action ontology. So just look here for upcoming courses, and just note that they might not be totally up to date, but we'll keep our schedule here up to date. So we'll keep you informed about what's coming up. And Nico says that the fundamentals of matching will probably only be one course, not 2 parts. So does anyone have any questions about what's coming up or the schedule or anything like that? And if not, we'll get started. So yeah, I'm starting in the middle of this content, so I'll just put the link directly to where I am. So last time we talked about, we went through a lot of this content on pull requests. So we talked about how to create a really good pull request, the general workflow, how to find reviewers for your pull request. And then we talked about how to review a pull request. So in this section, I added some new content that I just learned about from Nico, and it's super cool. So I want to show you all this really cool thing about inline commits. Is anyone already familiar with this? Has anyone actually been doing this yet? Do you have, like, give a thumbs up, or I can't see everyone. Okay, so looks like Nico has. Okay, so maybe this is new to everybody. Oh, Ray has. Yeah, so this is super cool. Nico told me about this recently, and I added this to our lesson, and now I'm trying to do it all the time. Although with one caveat, that I feel like when I do this in an ontology file, it often doesn't work. But if I do it like in a markdown file, it works. So I I'm not sure what the issue is with that, but so I'll just explain to you what it is, and then you can all go off and try it and see how it works for you. So I don't know if this is new or if it's something that's been around that we haven't ever noticed. I suspect maybe it's new, but I don't follow all of the changes GitHub makes, so I'm not always up to date on their new features, but I'm sure they're adding new things on a regular basis. But so if you're on a pull request and you want to suggest some changes, there's this new feature that you can suggest an exact change in the comment in your pull request. So it's called an inline commit, and you can basically suggest proper changes in the actual on the pull request by clicking over the files changed in the pull request tab. So if I go to, like, say this one is a new pull request from Sean, and Sean, you're here. This is a super awesome thing that Sean did, was create this glossary of terms for our OBOok, for our obo-academy. So Sean went in and took some examples from Chris had created a glossary of terms in his ontology access kit repo, and Sean took these, added some from Chris's that Chris had previously written, and also added a whole bunch more. So once this ontology, once this PR gets committed, this is going to be a very helpful resource in our obo-academy documentation. So you can see that he's done a lot of work here, added a lot of different terms. And then there's been some comments from various people. So looking at some of these comments, we could properly make some of these changes here, but I think I'll choose something a little bit easier since David's comments aren't, they don't exactly say what needs to be changed. So say I was reviewing this PR and I saw that he acknowledges Chris Mungle here. So maybe we can just add Chris's orchid here. So I'm just going to go look up Chris's orchid. We'll just link Chris's orchid just so it gives him like better credit. I think I've showed you all this before, but I have my orchid bookmarked on my toolbar because I need to reference it a lot. And it's also kind of handy just to go directly to that link, and then I can look for other people's orchids as well. So here's Chris's orchid. So let's copy this URL. So I'm going to just add his orchid to this. So to do this, I just need to go. So this is like I'm making a comment. So if I was going to say, Sean, please add Chris's orchid here, I can just instead add it myself. So I can just click on this inline commit, and this highlights the row that I was next to, and then I'm just going to add Chris's orchid here, and then mark down some text. So this now becomes hyperlinked to his orchid. So now you can see, oh, if I preview, it doesn't actually show me the proper display, but I've done enough of these, so I'm 99.9% sure I did it correctly. So I can just add a single comment. So now Sean can come over here and see what I've done. Since Sean is here and I feel confident that he won't mind that I did this, I'm just going to commit this just to demonstrate to you how this works. And Sean, if you really don't want me to do this, speak up now. Okay, yes, please, thank you. So I'm just going to commit this. So this is the thing that I have trouble with when I'm in an ontology. So like if I'm editing like a pull request like in Mondo or another ontology, you can do the same kind of changes here. So say if you come across a pull request and something's mistaken, you can directly go into this this PR and do it. I've always been able to do this and I get this far, but then when I commit suggestion, it usually gives me some kind of error telling me it's like not up to date. And I don't know if it's because it's an ontology file and it's like too big and complicated for GitHub to process as a inline commit or what the issue is. But this has always worked for me when I've done this in just in markdown files. So I can add an explanation if I wanted to. So I could say adding Chris's orchid commit changes, and then it should directly, yep, it worked. Okay, so now we can see that Chris's orchid is now linked in this file. And when I committed it, it took away all the comments. So I think maybe if we go back, maybe we'd see them, but let's just first view this file and make sure that everything looks correct. So now we can see Chris's name is linked and it links out to his orchid. So that worked. Yeah, so then I think that if I go back to the conversation, I think it would show a record of what I had done. So when Sean goes back here, it's not just a surprise that something has changed. He has no record of it. So I don't know. So yeah, so here you can see the change that I made. So it's still, the provenance is still there. So this is a really cool feature. I think it just makes it a lot handier. R was asking if this can be done in GitHub Desktop as well and inline commits. That I don't know. I've never tried it. Let's try it. Unless somebody knows off the top of their head. So if I want to go to GitHub Desktop, I just need to copy this, copy the branch name, and then go to the appropriate repo. I always fetch origin just to make sure I'm up to date, which I wasn't. So I'll go to his branch. Then I think I'd have to look at the history. Probably what I'd have to do. So I'm guessing here. I don't. Yeah, it doesn't look like. I don't know of a way to do this with GitHub Desktop. So I think it's something that you just do in the GitHub website. Unless anyone knows otherwise, please let me know.
I think you cannot actually comment with GitHub Desktop. I think I'm not, or if we can, then someone should illuminate us because I have never done it before.
Yeah, I think that's the case. Yeah.
But the one thing you should show, which is something that is super obvious once you know it, but it's not obvious when you see this view here, is how to change a suggestion you made.
Over here?
Yeah, that it is exactly the same as changing any comment at all. So now you've merged this suggestion, but if you just make a quick random new one and just show that you can as easily change your suggestion as any other comment.
Okay, so if I go back to the file that oops, I don't want to do that. That Sean created. So if I want to write, so if I gave him a suggestion, so call this glossary instead. And then if I add the comment, then you can go back and you can edit, say, call this, okay, I'll put this quote here, update comment, or if I realize that this is kind of a, I don't really want to suggest this, you can also delete your comment too. That's what you want me to show, Nico, right?
Yeah, exactly. But you can do the same also in suggest mode. That's what I want to emphasize, that because suggest mode looks a little bit like, so you just activate suggest mode. You can just, you have this pop-up on the top. You can just hit cancel.
Oh, thanks.
And just go to edit and add a suggest. Anything. Yeah. And then now you can just simply go and edit this again. If someone says, I would prefer something else, you just go into edit mode. That's just, it's super obvious once you know that, but because it looks so different, some people don't think that they can easily just change the suggestion. So that's it.
Cool. Yeah, and then you can also delete this too. So I've actually made some, and then in the cases too, where I've made some of these inline tried to do these inline commits in like a Mondo or like an ontology file. It doesn't let me. I usually just actually ended up deleting it because I don't want it just to be hanging out, and I can't do anything with it. So okay, so that was what I wanted to show you about the inline commits. Does anyone have any questions about that before we move on? Looking at the chat, are you all going to use this now going forward? That's super cool. Yeah, so the explanation is here. So yeah, just remember just to click this button here, and then it's nice too because it actually just brings up the text too that you want to change. So you just kind of have to edit this and then add the comment. One thing I don't know is if you made this inline comment and then open the file in Protege, would you actually see that? So yeah, that's something I don't know. So you guys can test that out. Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to show you is so last time we got as far as, I think we got through this, how to change a pull request in response to review. So the next thing was how to update from master. I'll just quickly go over how to change a pull request in the response to review again, just so we all remember what we were last talking about. So if you have a pull request with the review, the changes for review on it, well, basically what we just did. So like if on Sean's glossary of terms, so we want to just go check out the branch for, oh, this, I guess for Sean's terms, that's not in Protege. So if I had, say I want to review, make some changes to this pull request. So I just want to open the branch, whatever it's named, and you can easily copy the number just using the little copy symbol here. So if I go to Mondo, and if I want to open this, and then I would open this file in Protege and then make whatever the suggested changes are. And then check the diff in GitHub desktop, and then commit my changes to the branch. And then also you wouldn't need to create another pull request because the commits will show up in the same PR. Another thing that I often do just out of habit a lot is I will say, like, I made these changes, like I revised class label or something. And then I often will say addresses number, then I usually name the branches after the issue number I'm working on. And then that helps me a lot keep track of which issue I'm working on. And then also sometimes I'll forget to go onto a branch and I'll be on master, and then I look up here for the number and I'm like, oh, oops, I'm on master. So then I can go and still move my changes to a branch, and then address this number, whatever ticket number it is. But you don't have to add this again. So if you created a pull request already and it has the you already said it closes this ticket or addresses this ticket. If you make more changes to this branch, you don't need to keep adding the address, the ticket number, or close the ticket number, because it only needs to be there once. And it also just needs to be in this box here. If I had noted that, I did add that here. And then if it wasn't in this box, it wouldn't actually link to the ticket itself. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So then, yeah, if you commit your comments or commit your changes on the pull request, and then you can also note that if we go back to Sean's glossary of terms ticket, you can see you can also resolve all the comments on the pull request, which is really helpful to do, because otherwise, some of these have been resolved somewhere. After you address the comments, if you resolve them, then you can hit this resolve conversation. Then it's nice, and then it collapses everything down, so you don't see all this particular PR had a ton of comments on it because there was a ton of content. So it's nice if you just resolve them, so then you no longer see them and it's not so intense and messy. Yeah, and Sean actively resolves with his big PRs, which is really good. It makes it a lot easier to be able to see it. And then also another thing is that if you do a bunch of if you address your changes on a PR, the reviewer may not necessarily see that the changes have been resolved. Like, I don't think they notify you when the changes are resolved. So it's good to notify your the reviewer that the PR is ready for review again. Oh, there's a feature in GitHub to force resolving all comments before merging. We don't have that set up in many of the repos that I work on, but that might be a good thing to have if that's a recurring problem. Also, another thing you can do is update from master. So if your PR has been sitting out for a while, there's probably, and hopefully other people have gone in or you have gone in and made other changes to your repository, you may want to update it from master. So if you're on a branch, so here I'm on this branch, you can go here, branch, update from master, and this will pull in all the changes that have recently been made on your file. And then, so now I can see there's been, here in this case, there's been 5 different changes that have come in. So just push the origin. And now the changes are all up to date. Sometimes this will cause conflicts when you do this, because there's been changes that have been made to the ontology that may conflict with the changes that you've made. So, then you may need to go and fix your, you may need to go fix the conflicts. And this will re-trigger GitHub Actions and all the checks. So if you want to merge this right away, you'll have to wait until the checks are finished. It looks like in this case, this was a very small change that I made to the ontology, so there's not any conflicts here. But it often happens, especially if you're adding new terms to the ontology. GitHub or Protege doesn't know how to, or GitHub doesn't know how to order them, or doesn't know that they're in sequential order, or sometimes they won't be in sequential order. And that'll cause conflicts. So that's probably the most frequent reason that I come across conflicts is if I'm adding new terms. If I add new terms on one branch, then I add new terms on another branch. It'll get very confused with how to order the terms. It create conflicts in that case. Or the other reason I end up with conflicts a lot is if I work on so this is an example here where I've worked on this ticket, and I did this almost a month ago, and then I've been waiting for to talk to Peter about it, for him to review it. And so then in the meantime, I've done a lot of other work. So a lot of other changes have come into Mondo since between now and then. So there's conflicts on this branch now that need to be resolved. So this is the next section that I want to explain for this lesson. And this is the last thing that I have to explain for this lesson, is how to fix conflicts in GitHub Desktop. So I would say that fixing conflicts is kind of never a super out of the box straightforward thing. It's kind of different every time. The main steps are the same, but the conflicts that you need to fix are like it's kind of a case by case basis, and sometimes it's pretty straightforward and sometimes it can be a little less obvious. But especially when you have pull requests sitting around for a long time, I find that for me a best practice is to try to get your pull requests merged in as soon as possible. The longer they sit, the more conflicts arise, and the harder it can be to fix them. So I haven't actually looked at this file, so we'll look at it together in real time and see what's going on. But in this particular case, I knew this was going to be kind of a it wasn't going to be a super straightforward ticket that would require some discussion. So I actually added a bunch of new terms to Mondo, but I did this using a robot template with the knowledge that if I needed to, so there's one kind of update here, just some definitions and synonyms, but then a whole bunch of new terms are added here via a robot template. And I also knew in my mind that if this ended up with a lot of conflicts that became too messy to fix, I was just gonna scrap this and run the merge template again command. So I think I linked it from the ticket. So this is another normally I like to link the robot templates to the ticket so it's easier for me to go back and find them. And oh yeah, so here I added it here. And then I also added myself a kind of a tab, like a readme tab with all the commands. So now I know if I need to go back to this, if this, and we'll see it in a few minutes, but if I go back to this and I see there's way too many conflicts in here, and sometimes it's just, in my mind, it's just easier to start over than try to fix everything. I will know that I could just go back to this template and just run one of these commands again, and then be back where we started. Without that, sometimes I feel like it's less work than trying to go in and fix all the conflicts, but we'll see how this looks. But so I'm just going to go through these instructions, and I have a couple of videos where I've done this before. So I'll show you these videos, and then we can go and try to do this in real time and see how it goes. So what the steps to fix a conflict, I'll just go through the steps first. So go to your branch, and or it said to go to master main and fetch, and then go to your branch and GitHub Desktop, and then pull the branch, and then we're going to go here, branch, and then update from master. And GitHub Desktop is telling me that this has conflicts, and now this is telling me I have conflicts. And then so then we open it in Sublime Text or Atom. My GitHub Desktop is configured so it gives me this option to open in Sublime Text. I don't know how. I think this is a default feature in GitHub Desktop, and I have Sublime installed, so I always do this. So this is the file, edit file. And then we have to go and look for the conflicts, and these are usually preceded by a bunch of these little things. So I just do find and look for these. I have an extra space in there, so it's not finding any. Now I can see this is where the conflict is. And then we need to fix the conflict. And then once that's done, we can save, and then GitHub desktop will show you that there's 0 conflicts remaining. And then just continue merge and push. And then you can open Protege and then do a save as, and then check the diff and make sure nothing additional has changed. And then check the diff on GitHub desktop online, or GitHub online, and make sure that the diff looks like what you expect it to. And then you're good to go. So let's watch this video first, where I've done this and I know it worked.
This is how you resolve a conflict in GitHub. So I'm on this pull request here, and I see this branch has conflicts that must be resolved. GitHub won't let me click on this button, so I need to, it says use the command line to resolve conflicts before continuing. I can also do this in GitHub desktop, so I'm going to do that instead of the command line. So if I click on this issue, I just copied it, and I'll go to GitHub desktop, and I'll go to the Mondo repository. I'm going to just fetch the origin to get the most up-to-date version of Mondo. I'm going to paste in the issue, the name of the branch. So I'm on that branch now. So now I need to do branch update from master. So that'll take a second. And now it says there's one conflict, and it offers for me to open this in Sublime Text. So I'll click that button. Now I'll look at this file. So here's the obo mondo -edit obo file. So I'm going to search for the conflict, and I'm going to search for it by searching for these little hashes things. And this often happens when you add a new term and then you add another new term. The terms will get out of order. So you can see this is number 27. This one's ending in number 29. Looks like there probably isn't 28. So these are actually in order, but somehow I'll just look and see if there's a 28 now. Somehow these got kind of confused. So I just need to put this back in the right place. So this text should just go under here term. And then this deleted the term tag above the 29. So I'll just delete that. And then get rid of all these little hashes that were inserted. And then I'm going to save. So yes, now there's this new term 29, 27, 29, 28. I will save this just by doing Command S. And then I'm going to open this in Protege. And I'm going to ask if you want to reload, say no, and just open a new file. And this will take a second. So I want to reopen this, then do a save as, just to make sure that one thing I want to open this just to make sure the file opens, because if there was any mistakes, the file wouldn't open. And then I also want to do a save as, just to make sure that all the serialization is correct. So now this is going to open. I'm just going to check these terms, make sure they look, oops, sorry, please. Make sure they look okay. So let's look at restricted pulmonary disease. Just make sure that everything's where I expect it to be. This one looks fine. Let's check the other one too. It's fine. I'm going to do save as obo format. And then I'm going to save it as mondo-edit obo, save, replace. And now when I go back to GitHub desktop, once this is saved, it should show me that my conflicts are resolved. So then I just do continue merge and then push origin. And sometimes you'll see a lot of changes there. And that's all. So then you go back to your GitHub desktop and it should start running again, checking the checks. So wait for the build to pass and then you're done.
Okay, so there's an example of a conflict that I fixed. I pasted some screenshots below too that are give you a little bit more guidance. So yeah, search for these little for these symbols, it'll always be preceded by this, and then the symbols will be the opposite direction at the end of the conflict, and then they'll be separated by equal signs in the middle. So just search by either any of these symbols here to find the conflicts. And then one thing that I feel like I need to know in my, I often need to know is, and this is why I don't like to fix or have conflicts arise when a PR has been sitting around for a long time, is I sometimes feel like I have to remember what I was trying to do and what is meant to be done. So looks like in this case, there was some new terms added that got out of order. So one of these is what's in your, I think the head is what's in your version, and then what's below the equal sign is what's in the master version. So yeah, in this case, and this is what was added, the new term sleep disorder. But this is what the commit message said. This new term sleep disorder is added. So basically these would just need to be reordered like I did in the video. And this one, there's another conflict where this I must have done a bunch of new terms on this one particular pull request for sleep disorder. Again, is we out of order with another term, and then yeah, and then I noted here to fix this, delete all these markers, all of these symbols, reorder the terms, and then a lot of times it'll delete one of these term tags. So be sure to add that back. One of the mistakes I've made, which are many, is not adding this term tag. And then when you try to open in Protege, it'll say, I cannot open the file. And I'll try to do that. I'll try to give you an example of that where we can purposely try to mess it up so it can't open the file. And luckily, Protege, when you can't open a file, it'll give you a display that if you click on the obo tab, or at least for us, because we have an obo file for Mondo, it'll tell you exactly which line the error is in, which is super helpful because other times it's really hard to know. Okay, yeah, so I noted here that the new content is below the equal signs, the old content is between the little hashes. So so we want to delete the content between the hashes going to the left and the equal signs, and keep what's between the equals and the hashes pointing to the right. This is the example. This is the case where I find it to be a little bit tricky sometimes to know what to keep and what to delete, and it's sometimes I find it to be a little bit nerve-wracking that I'm not making more mistakes and entering changes into the ontology file that I didn't intend. That's why it's always good to go back and check the file and check for the terms that you changed. And then you can always look at the diff that your original diff that you created and make sure that everything looks like it's as it would in the file that you changed. These examples of the conflicts I provide here are all with adding new terms. This is not the only time a conflict will arise. So there can be conflicts coming in for all different reasons. So sometimes, this particular use case may not apply to the conflict that could arise in one of your files if it's not due to adding new terms. So like I said, it's kind of a case-by-case basis as to what the conflict is and how to fix it. But so next I'll try to fix this conflict in real time. So it's not just a good idea if you had to resolve a conflict, I think you must review your own PR afterwards, as it was a new one. Okay, yeah, so always review your PRs.
Because one thing that you need to take into account when you're doing like complex conflict resolution is that, for example, for this example that you just showed, it's in theory possible that not only is there a shuffling error, but there's also an update at the same time. And then in this, in general, you should always, after you had to resolve a conflict, you should always go back and pretend like you're completely on a new pull request and review your own pull request once more after a conflict resolution to make sure that no problems were introduced. So I think that what you're saying is absolutely right. I just would say it with more force, that you need to keep it as something new that you did, and you don't fully, you can't be fully sure during conflict resolution that everything you did was correct.
Yeah, got it. Okay, let's try to do this together in real time. And no promises that it's going to go smoothly. Oh, so yeah, we got this far onto this. So, so now we did the first steps, and we have the conflict, and now we have this open and Sublime. So now we'll look at C, what's going on here. So it looks like there's one conflict in here according to GitHub Desktop. So that's makes it a little bit easier. And I'll admit, when I've had files where there's a ton of different conflicts, that sometimes I'm just like, okay, I'm going to close this and redo it. So that's goes back to our point too that we made earlier when we talked about this a month ago. The idea of, I don't remember where in the text it says, but to make small commits and don't do a lot of changes on one commit. Because if you have a big pull request with a lot of changes, then the file ends up with a ton of conflicts, and it's just too messy and confusing to fix, which happens to me in my opinion. Then if you have to go back and redo the changes, then you will be grateful to yourself if you did not make a lot of changes on that one PR. So all this is from learning experience. So learning the hard way. So here, so what's above here should be, I always forget this, I'm gonna consult this. So the new content is between the old content this is the old content and this is the new content. So if I look at this, I can try to see. So there's a synonym here. Looks like everything, the synonym is the same, the xref is the same. Looks like the property value that is now has somebody's orchids added to it, and then the relationship has changed to this is term tracker issue, unrelated to conflicts, but on the note of ontologies, across OBO, we've decided that we should, instead of using C also to link to a term tracker item, like to the GitHub URL, we're now using this IAO property term tracker item. Not sure how much you all use this in your respective ontologies, but if you do link your term tracker items to your terms, use this property instead of C also, if that's what you were previously doing. And if you don't do this routinely, I would definitely suggest it. As a curator of Mondo and of other ontologies, I'm always super grateful to myself when I see a term tracker item linked to a term, even if it's super trivial, even if the ticket's super trivial, like just fix a typo or revise a definition. It's really nice to have that provenance and go back to the ticket and see like, oh, this is why this is defined this way. Somebody asked for this, or yeah. So I am trying to get into the habit where I add term track, I link the GitHub URL to all the terms that I edit in Mondo. So, and also since we created Mondo in more of an automated way versus a lot of other ontologies where everyone has individually created the terms, it's also nice to see that if there's a term tracker, if there's a GitHub issue linked to the class, and know that one of us curators has actually worked on that term, which is in the case with all the terms. Yeah, Nico's emphasizing that everyone that works on ontologies in and around Monarch and around Monarch should at all times link term tracker items or link the GitHub issue to the ticket. So that's an aside that has nothing to do with conflicts, but just the ontology best practice will integrate everything together. So it looks like, so I can tell from this conflict here that it's kind of mixed. Like this is what's here. I added, so this is term requests that came in from a couple of our medical experts. So I just, from my knowledge of working on this ticket, I don't necessarily recognize their ID, their orchids, but I just remember adding their orchids. So I know one of these orchids belongs to our collaborator, Matthias. Another one belongs to Christina. this is just from my memory of working on this ticket. I didn't actually memorize their orchids, but I want their orchids to be linked to this ISA. So I'm just going to move this down here. And then this C also has been replaced by this. So this is what happened on this ticket. Was this is not a case of a new additional new terms being added, but we went in and updated the entirety of Mondo to replace C also with this term tracker item. So this created conflicts on any pull requests that were hanging out. So this is why we don't like to, or I don't like to have pull requests hanging out for too long, because then we go and do a bunch of work on Mondo, for example, this big bulk change. Now every pull request in this series, there was 3, is going to have the same kind of issue. Although it is easy enough to fix, but still it's more work. So it's nice to avoid those kinds of conflicts if you can. So I just fixed that. So now this looks like it should be okay. So yeah, Nico notes that what the assumption I made, what is on main or master is correct over, but I only selectively moved the stuff from the head section over. So yeah, so this is kind of a little bit tricky because I had to remember that what was done. I do remember, but I kind of, if this had been a really long time, I may have not remembered all these details that this, that I wanted these sources to be added to this subclass assertion or these changes. So I could also go back and look at the diff and remind myself that for that particular term, like, oh yeah, I added all these orchids to these subclass assertions. So then that has happened to me before, where I don't remember exactly what I was intending to do. So I had to go back and kind of compare. And that's where it gets kind of confusing, at least for me. So I saved that, and then if I hadn't properly fixed it, it would still show that there was still conflicts. So, and then Shahim is the one who taught me how to fix conflicts the first time, and he would always say, like, keep looking for these, and then go and look for all the equal signs. And then GitHub desktop tells me there's no more conflicts, but I still do this kind of out of habit from what Shahim taught me. So then I just continue merge. And the first time I used to fix the conflicts on the command line, which isn't as straightforward. And when the first time I tried to fix it on GitHub desktop, I was really freaked out by all these different changes, but then Nico assured me that this is fine. So clearly over the last 27 days, Sabine and I and Nico and all of us ontology Mondo editors have done a lot of changes on the Mondo branch, on the master branch. So that's why there's so many changes there to push. So now this is going to update this branch with the current branch, with the master branch. So I'll refresh, and then I also want to open this in Protege just to make sure everything looks okay. And now I don't remember what particular term that was. So I guess I won't go back and look at that term, but maybe I'll spot check a couple of them just to make sure that they look okay once Protege, as Mondo opens, which is open. So just check some of these terms and make sure everything looks okay. Oh, I meant to introduce an error on purpose. Let me try that. So I'll show you. Does everybody know what I mean if I introduce an error? How to fix that? Or I'll just show you. So let's just say I fixed this conflict, but I forgot to add this term tag, or I deleted something in the file. So if I go open Mondo again, and I have to note that this will look better. It's easier using the obo format, but if I click on the obo format, it says expected ID tag as first line and frame, but was null. So, and then it also tells me the line that it happened on and the ID. So that's nice when it says that. So I can just go back to Sublime and look for that ID, which it happens to be right in front of us because we just messed with it. But if I add that tag, and then I can just reload because I'm just trying to, oh, that's not reload. Let's just open it again. Now it's doing something. So yeah, if I make any accidental edits in the text file, then then you will be unable to open it in Protege, but luckily Protege will tell you where the errors are. And I believe that if your file is saved as an OWL file, you would just have, and when there was all those options for the tags on top of the error message, you could just click on the OWL box, and then you could see where the mistake is in the OWL file and go there and fix it. So I'm just going to open this one more time because now I'm already reloaded it. So I'm just going to open this one more time and then do save as. Make sure that there's no changes in the diff. And then we should be good to go. So I think most of you are using Macs. One thing I didn't do on that video when I did the save as, maybe I had learned that since I made that video. If I make sure I'm on the Mondo ontology, which I am, if I go to the date added, it should bring up the Mondo edit file on top. That was one of the most recently edited files. So that was easier than the way I was scrolling in the video. And then replace. And then we'll check the diff. Uh-oh. I don't know what this is.
This is great though. So
Yeah.
this problem is probably a bit harder to fix, but so this is exactly when the time where someone of the tech team would have to chime in, because the obo file serializer now finds a mistake that the deserializer didn't see. So when it was loaded, the error wasn't seen, but when it tried to save it again, the error was suddenly seen. And typically these are things like malformed xref statements that came as a consequence of the merge and stuff like that. But this should happen very rarely, and most of you are using OWL. For you, it would not happen at all. So this is only a problem with obo format.
Yeah, I don't know what I did here. To go.
Well, otherwise, like, this is now too complicated for this course to review what exactly has happened, but I can see whether I can spot it in a second. I just wanted to note one thing that I see. So one trick that I use for which sometimes for huge ontologies maybe not fast enough, but for small ontologies it saves you a lot of time. So if you go to Protege and you have Mondo open, so let's say you've just opened it. Okay, so rather than going to the save as process, you do delete, you click delete the title up top, then Command S.
Wait, delete the title in here?
No, here in the annotations. In the annotations. Yeah, just Mondo disease ontology. Delete the title, hit Command S. You can't do that now.
Yeah.
Then hit Command Z to undo it. And then you save it again. So basically the trick is here, instead of going through all this trouble of going to save as, find the file, find the right directory, find this, find that, what you do instead is you just make a minimal change, save it quickly with Command S, then undo it, then save it again. And that is much faster usually than trying to find your way through all of the. So that's what I do. You do to circumvent the problem that you can't.
I love that, because I do actually hate having to navigate all this stuff.
Yeah, I'm doing it all the time. So for big ontologies, you know, saving twice may take some time, but it's usually still faster than going through the save as thing. And of course, what's even more fast is for everyone that's using ODK to just simply use the normalize function rather than going through Protege.
And that's the command that's something like this.
Yeah, but that is the Mondo specific one, but all the ODK ones also have a very specific one.
Yeah. Cool. All right, I think that's everything I have in my tutorial. And then there's some, I think I pointed this out last time, but there's some further reading. So a lot of this content came from the gene ontology daily workflow documentation. These are some specific articles from GitHub actually itself on how to resolve conflicts. And this is a Bitbucket example. So this other documentation might be useful for you. And then a lot of the content in this tutorial came from this blog post. I like this title, especially the anatomy of a perfect pull request. So a lot of the content that I added to this lesson came from some of these sources. And this is a tutorial from GitHub, or it looks like it's an article, a blog post about how to do the inline commits that we talked about. So that's all we have. So we have 7 minutes left if anyone has questions or concerns or things they want to talk about. Yeah, and we'll meet again in 2 weeks. And I think we're on track, or I think we're still planning to do the how to be an open science scientist.
Yes,
Yeah, for 2 weeks from now. So we'll keep you up to date with we'll send reminders and about that. And then we'll keep you up to date with the upcoming tutorials. But like with we have the topics outlined, but the dates will probably change a little bit, but we'll be sure to update you in advance about what's coming up in the pipeline, the lessons. All right. If we don't have any questions, we can adjourn a few minutes early.